Welcome back to the Broto Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrotoFantasy.com. I'm your host, Tim PETROP, with my brothers, the only two twins that give you double that fantasy goodness, Michael and Jason PETROP. We're in Philly, baby.
Born and raised.
Cheesesteaks.
No, in the playground, you spend most of my days. Keep it going.
Chilling out, maxing, and taking a look at the Eagles fantasy football outlook. That's right, corny.
All cool.
Corny but good, just like
us, I
corn
guess,
chips.
Right?
Corny
We're a little
but
corny
good.
sometimes.
So let's take a look first at the offensive outlook for the Eagles. Again, that's when we take a look at their coaching staff and to see what is the effect of the coaching staff on the offense. Because remember, football is a big game of chess, and although you could have the best players on the field, it's the person moving those pieces.
Man, are the Eagles deep?
Yeah, the Eagles are
say
deep.
that.
Deep AF, as the cool kids would say.
Yeah, we're going to get to a lot of players right now. But first, let's get to their coaches. The head coach, Doug Peterson, is the same, of course. And Mike Groh is in his second year after getting promoted from wide receivers coach. Last year, he is the offensive coordinator. He's in his second year with the Eagles. Threw the ball 61% of the time, 7th in the NFL, 14th in total offense, 18th in point scores, but lots of injuries last season, which makes you realize why they're so deep. Let's go with the biggest injury that there was last season on this team, Carson Wentz, as we take a look at the position breakdowns for quarterback. Carson Wentz, listen, the baby gloves are off. It's his show. Last year, he had improved numbers across the board, but he didn't put up those fantasy impact numbers because, number one, he couldn't move around, so he couldn't get those rushing yards, and number two, the TD numbers weren't there, and the big plays weren't there. So although he became a more accurate and better pocket passer, that knee injury definitely slowed him down. So there's two ways to look at it this year for Wentz. Do you think that time in the pocket helps him as a passer, and now that he has the athletic abilities back, he'll be better? Or are his athletic abilities gone forever, in which case you're taking away a big part of what made him such a great and viable MVP candidate that year? Jason, let's start with you because you actually just drafted him in the Raz Bowl, which is a big fantasy tournament for pros. So talk to me.
Yeah, I got him in the 9th round. I'm usually not a guy who drafts top quarterbacks, but when I have Carson Wentz rated as my 5th quarterback. So when he's on the board in the 9th round and all the players look blah to me, I'm going to grab the quarterback that I want. And I think it's because I haven't ranked 5th because, like you said, last year he wasn't as good, but he was still, in the games he played, the 13th quarterback. So that's his floor. Carson Wentz is going to be a quarterback one. The question is just how high. And when you're asking how high, well, in 2017, he was shaping up to be the MVP. In 2018, he was coming off an injury. His touchdowns regressed a little, 21 in 11 games, but we expect more than that from Wentz. Sometimes It's just bad luck. He was 13th in true throw value, so coming back from an injury, he was still a pretty decent
top half
in that range, top half quarterback. And Desean Jackson's there now, and he changes lives for quarterbacks. So I think Wentz MVP potential, bottom end floor.
Yeah, the thing is about Wentz is not that he's not a running quarterback. He just likes to scramble a bit, which I don't think it's going to change much. I mean, in 2017, that MVP type season, he only had 299 rushing yards, 0 touchdowns.
299 is nothing to sneeze
Yeah,
at.
I mean, that's 30 extra fantasy points.
But he doesn't, I'm saying he doesn't, there's no runs where he doesn't make the throw just to run.
He
makes
did have
the
a
throw
lot of
when it's there.
His rookie season, he did have a lot
Yeah.
of plays where he was scrambling and hitting Aguilar deep for a touchdown.
Yeah, but the more time he has to throw, the more weapons he has, the better chance he has of getting back to that MVP level. I also have Carson Wentz higher than the consensus. I think I have him as my QB 5 as well. So, or 6 right behind Baker. 6 right behind Baker.
All right, yeah, I love Carson Wentz too this year. I think, look, it's his injury concerns. If he's on the field, he's going to be good.
And quarterback's so deep this year, if he gets injured, you could make it up. Or just draft like Garoppolo or Lamar Jackson. Or
We'll talk about Garoppolo later. He's one of my favorite
even
sleepers this
Tom
year.
Brady as a backup.
Let's go to the running back position. They acquired Jordan Howard. He's on the last year of his rookie deal, and if you know anything about me, you know that I'm trying to find players on their last deals, especially the last year of their rookie deals when they're getting their first opportunity to get paid. Hard runner already. He's going to run even that much harder. 685 yards after contact last season was 8th in the league, and that's an aggregate. Don't forget. So he had less touches than the guys before him. 3rd in the NFL in rushing since being drafted. That's right, 3rd overall. Will definitely be part of a committee, but when you have a running back by committee, there's an important factor that you have to take into consideration. That's pass blocking. And right now, the reports are Miles Sanders can't pass block. On the other hand, Jordan Howard allowed 2 pressures on 92 pass blocking snaps last season. That's the highest pass blocking efficiency of any running back with at least 30 pass blocking snaps in the league. So you have a guy who can pass block that will probably be on the field on first and second down, and that's Jordan Howard. So I think he's the guy in the backfield that I prefer. But you also have Miles Sanders, Josh Adams, Corey Clement, Darren Sproles. Let's start with Michael. Michael, who are you looking at in this backfield, and who's the guy that you want to own?
So if I had to choose someone to own, it'd be Miles Sanders just off the bat, just because of the potential there. He was the high round draft pick, and he's just the best all around running back on the team. But ADP wise, I'm not going anywhere near Miles Sanders. His ADP right now is 78 according to Fantasy Pros. In the Raz Bowl that you guys were just talking about, I saw him going the 6th round in my draft.
Mine too.
7th round in a different draft. 5th round I even saw once, I think. No way.
Yeah, no way.
This guy, he just came. He already got hurt. He's already back. He's practicing and everything, but not a great sign if you start the year hurt. He's joining a team that never uses that has not used a workhorse back in since Brian Westbrook days. And Jordan, like you said, Jordan Howard's there now. Jordan Howard is a legit running back. He can't catch, but he's a legit running back who's probably going to be the goal line back, probably going to be in a lot of early downs. So I think Miles Sanders certainly has the highest ceiling, but ADP-wise, I just can't get behind drafting Miles Sanders as of today.
They brought Darren Sproles back as well.
They did.
If he steals some targets.
They still got Josh Adams.
I'll tell you what, if Miles Sanders is drafted by someone in the 5th round and he ends up not getting a lot of touches in the first few weeks, that's a guy that you should definitely target for trades to try and get that guy later.
That's my issue with Sanders. I think that's going to be the case. He might end up being a league winner starting week 8. But you're going to take him in the 6th round?
Yeah. It's too much. You saw this with Kerryon Johnson last year, too. People started taking him in the 5th round at some points. You can't take a guy in the 5th round that's not going to play half the year for you. Like, if I told you that I'm taking A.J. Green in the 5th round, you'd be like, damn, are you sure? And that's one of the best wide receivers in the league, and he's only missing 2 games. You're talking about a guy who's not going to play until the middle of the season. For a team that uses running back by committee, I can't get on the Miles Sanders train either, no matter how talented he is.
At his ADP, no. Yeah.
I mean, Jordan Howard's not getting re-signed by this team. Maybe next year.
1,100 yards last year.
Yeah.
They traded for him.
Yeah. 9 touchdowns.
They want him on the team. He's a good runner.
Yeah.
Look, in 5th round picks, they gave up a 5th round pick to get him, but everyone's so excited about 5th round rookie running backs.
Yeah.
You know, they traded one for Josh Howard. So, get excited.
Jordan Howard,
excuse me. Let's go over to the wide receivers. Alshon Jeffery, the last time he played, he dropped an important ball in the playoffs that cost the Eagles a win. So
he did.
Let's see how that, affects him mentally. Has career injury issues that did show up again last year. When he did play, he put up his classic wide receiver 2 numbers. He's really like the classic guy I want in my wide receiver 2 slot when he's healthy. What do you expect from him this year? He was inconsistent in games with Wentz. 3 games as a wide receiver 1s with Wentz, but 6 games finishing outside wide receiver 3 with Wentz. So he is up and down with him. Jason, I'll start with you this time. What do you see out of Alshon Jeffery?
Alshon Jeffery this season, he's become as predictable as Chris Davis and his 247 average in baseball. If you look at what he's done the last 4 years, 52, 65. I'm just looking at 2 years. I thought I listed more, but somewhere in there was more, right? He's between 52 and 65. There's a mistake. So he makes that many receptions in the last 4 years. His touchdowns those 4 years, 4, 2, 9, 6. So generally around the 5 area. And then you look at his yards over the last 4 years, 789 and 843 is his span. So we're looking at a guy who's going to give you 60, 807. How much are you willing to pay for that? I'm okay with that as my wide receiver 3.
Yeah. Now that you say it like
I don't
that.
want him as my 2.
Has injury problems.
Say it like that.
He did end as a top 30 wide receiver the last 2 seasons, but that's also with other players getting hurt and such. It's not on a per game average basis. On that way, he is. I mean, if you want to take Alshon Jeffery as your wide receiver 3, I'm not going to blame you. But the ceiling is just not even close to what it was when he was in Chicago. He's 29 now as well. So, I mean, there's injury history. There's a bunch of weapons to throw to. It's not like he's going to see 10 targets a game. You got to hope that the touchdown numbers are solid.
What about Djax? Djax comes in, still that deep threat that everyone knows and loves, led the league in yards per reception last season with 18.9. But he's 32 years old. Carson Wentz so far loves having him aboard, he says. Is Djax a fantasy option, or is this a guy who's going to open up the field for other fantasy options?
Djax is the perennial flex boom bust play every single year. Maybe wide receiver 3. He'll have games where you have him there and you're like, yes, because he goes off for 4 receptions, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But then he'll have games where he goes 4 receptions, 18 yards, no touchdowns. Like, that's what you have to deal with when it comes to Djax. He's a much better best ball player than he is weekly redraft player.
He opens up the field for other people, though. If you look at his career, he's made Michael Vick better, Kevin Cobb, Colt McCoy, RG3, Ryan Fitzpatrick. The only person he didn't make better is Jameis Winston. And that's because Winston just can't throw outside, apparently. He just hits his tight ends. So I think he's going to help out Wentz, maybe open up the field for Ertz a little bit. Jeffrey, he'll be a boom bust player, though.
So speaking of boom bust player, Nelson Aguilar, last year...
He might be cut.
Yeah, I mean, and also probably because he has no type of rapport with Wentz whatsoever. Last year, I had 1 game with less than 5 catches with Foles, 1 game with more than 5 catches with Wentz. That's 5 games with Foles, 11 games with Wentz.
It's a nice tidbit.
You know, and that 1 game that he had over 5 catches with Wentz was a game that was 6 receptions for 20 yards. Then you got a guy, Mac Hollins, who's probably the reason why Nelson Aguilar might get cut.
Don't forget the rook, bro.
He returns for injury. I'm not. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, been rumored that he could see some targets in the red zone, which is interesting. He is a bigger guy.
He was a huge red zone factor last season in college. He had 14 touchdowns. So he is a big, strong man. Caught 19 to 32 contested catch opportunities. So in college, if you threw up the ball to him, he was more than likely coming down with it. If that translates to the NFL, he could have one of those Mike Williams-like seasons last season where the receptions are not where you want them to be, but the touchdowns certainly are.
Oof. Mike Williams is a...
I'm not touching Aguilar, J-Jaw, Hollins. I'm not touching any of them.
I can't. I mean,
I don't
unless one of them takes like really serious control of a role during the preseason.
I don't hate J-Jaw as a sleeper late round pick to just stash, especially if there's injuries or second half of the season.
If Jeffrey gets hurt, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? All that, and we haven't even mentioned the best target yet. And that's
Dallas Goedert.
And that's the tight end position. Zach Ertz is as locked and loaded as they come. But Dallas Goedert.
Love me some Dallas Goedert.
I mean, does he have standalone value as a tight end?
No. I hate that people are drafting him.
Yeah.
No.
He's going to see more work.
All right.
But to trust a tight end, too, on a team stacked with... Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love Dallas Goedert as...
he's a freak.
As a player. Yeah, I started him last season when Ertz was hurt, and he had a huge game for me. Same thing I did with Trey Burton 2 years ago when Ertz was hurt. It's just that number 1 tight end is huge in the passing game.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz. The number 2 tight end, not so much. He'll probably have a couple games here and there where he finds the end zone and is useful, but there's no way I'm drafting Dallas Goedert as a tight end 1.
No.
You know, Zach Ertz does have a little history injury as well.
I do think Ertz is going to regress a little bit this year.
I mean, when you break the record for 106, everyone keeps saying he's going to regress. He just broke the record with 116 receptions. Obviously,
well,
he
had
unlikely
100.
That he
the
reaches
issue
that.
is that he had 156 targets. They brought in Djax, J-Jaw, Sanders, Howard. Goddard's going to have another year. In his first 8 games, he had 1 game with less than 8 targets. In his final 8, he had 5 games with 8 or less targets. And if you look at his career, he averaged around 110 targets the 3 years prior and around 75 catches the 3 years prior and around 830 yards the 3 years prior. That's a lot more in line with what he's done in his career over last year where he was thrust into a bigger role.
I'm not buying the huge
I still think he's
regression.
Yeah, me neither. I still think he's the number 1 target there. But I do think that if there's one injury that happens in our 1 injury away segment, Dallas Goedert is a tight end that you're going to want to take.
I think we're all in consensus, Dallas Goedert.
If Zach Ertz gets injured and Dallas Goedert's on your waiver wire and you're playing with Fab, I would recommend dropping a serious shit ton of money on him.
Especially if you're a Zach Ertz owner. You kind of have to.
Or if you just don't have a tight end.
That's why you can draft Goddard
which is half a fantasy league.
Just don't.
So who's better, Zach Ertz with Dallas Goedert or Dallas Goedert as the lone tight end?
Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz, of course. But, you know.
It's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question that could be answered.
Whiteside, too. Not a bad stash.
Do you know what else isn't a bad stash? Your phone in your pocket until the next time we see you? No?
That was bad.
Michael, where can they find you?
Mike _Petrop.
Jason Petrop.
You know, you're doing 32 of these. You run out sometimes. You can find me at Tim Petrop on all social media outlets, but only if you're feeling real frisky. For Broto, we got youtube.com/BrotoFantasy. Come see our beautiful faces. We have patreon.com/BrotoFantasy. If you find it in your heart, please give us some money. Instagram at BrotoFantasy. Twitter at BrotoFantasy. Everything you need, BrotoFantasy.com.
You know
and with
it.
that, we'll see you tomorrow
Later.
on the Hot Wave.
Heat wave. Later.
On the Heat Wave. I'm going crazy over here. Later.